Hey everyone, it's Andrew from Windsong Farm. Year or two ago, I think I posted up a photos or a video about a prototype solar wax melter, and it's finally gotten warm enough to use it this year. So I thought I'd do an update, a belated update, because I have used it last summer as well. To give some context, when you're cutting the sort of wax off frames with honey in them, that's quite new wax. It's the bees build it quite white as well, because it's there just to airtight seal the honey. So that wax, you just need to render on the stove top, once, and it's beautiful and clean. The wax out of other frames that they grow in bees in, which we call the brood, that wax gets darker and darker over time. Every generation of new bees leaves behind a little bit of gunk and dirt and what have you. And eventually, those cells get so small, the queen can't lay in them anymore. So we have to take those or rotate those frames out, scrape the wax off them, and then give them back to the bees. They build new comb. But then what do you do with all this dark wax? If you try and render it on the stove, you've got to do it multiple times, and it just sort of turns this dark green color. So don't exactly understand why, but for some reason a solar wax melter, which you can find online, details on them, seems to render the wax out of those old combs pretty clean, and then I only need one or two goes over the stove, and you've got nice clean wax that you can make lots of products out of. So the prototype works pretty well. The only problem that I had with it is it wasn't as airtight as it needed to be, which turns out very airtight. So anyway, most wax melters are similar to this. This sort of, looks the way it does because I've recycled old materials. This is an old glass door off a display unit. So basically it's just a frame of glass, or a frame with glass in it. This is an old esky that can't remember where we picked it up from, but it's recycled as well. So most solar wax melters will be a box, glass on top, and then there'll be trays inside where you put the old wax, and it dribbles down into a sort of a tray through sort of a sieve below, which I'll show you more detail on now. The main thing with this was this self-adhesive foam that I put around the inside of the glass here, and that sealed it off completely so it doesn't attract any bees. So the prototype let out too many aromas, and it was bees all over it trying to get inside, and some did, and then they'd cook, so it was a bit of a mess. So this works a treat. So I'll open it up. It's been running today because the temperature, generally with this particular one, I need it to be above about 28, sort of 30 degrees for it to really work effectively. And you'll see even with this one, tomorrow if I use it, the wax that it gets will be completely melted and flat, whereas today, it was high 20s, so it was, you'll see what it looks like. It's, sort of cooled as it's dribbling down. So anyway, forgive the awkward way the lid comes off. That's because I have goats. I have to make it difficult for them to get the lid off. For some reason, they love eating this stuff. So I just use these foil trays because I can easily cut holes in the bottom of this inner one and a slot at the front of the lower tray. And this is the stuff, so you can see how dark it is. It's known in the beekeeping world as slum gum when the wax has come out of it. And you might think, oh look, there's still heaps of material there. But seriously, none of this is wax. This is all the gunk that's sort of left behind by the baby bees as they're growing, so, or after they hatch out. So I'll take the trays out. Now they're sort of held in place by, in this particular model that I made, just with a screw at this end, and there's just a bucket keeping it elevated. And we might show you what we do with this stuff in another video later. And then I just let them go into this silicone tray, let the wax dribble through the trays. Like I said, they've got holes in them, and then it dribbles the wax and comes out into this silicone tray. A lot of this wax came out of a cutout, and so there was a few frames of very old sort of crystallized honey from the hive that we cut out of a wall. So that didn't end up going back to the bees. So this has a lot more honey in it than you would normally have. So the honey, which is the liquid, I just save that and I feed it back to the bees in the winter, next winter. But yeah, this is the wax, come out beautiful and yellow, except for that bit I just wiped on it. And yeah, that just needs maybe a quick render on the stove top, and you can pour it into ingots and then use it for your lip balm or your hand cream or whatever, your candles, whatever you want to make.